Welcome. In this short video, we're going to take a look at how to create a simple rendering to create a photorealistic image of the parts we've been modeling. And for this assignment, it's the wheel and tire that we see in front of us. So one little thing before we get started is that I know most of you by now realize that if you click on a part, you can go up here and make it any color you want it to be and whatever materials. And that's great, but there is a few libraries we can actually pick from, and usually it defaults to Inventor Material, and they give us a pretty decent selection. But if you choose one of the Autodesk libraries, it really expands your options. And the one little difference between material libraries and appearance libraries, well, material libraries actually change the properties of the whole part. So in other words, if you'd want, you could figure out how much it weighs, how strong it is, because it would really take on the properties of that material you assign it. Appearance libraries are just to change the way something looks. So it's a way of just changing the skin or or some people say think of it as a wallpaper around the object. We're really just changing how we see it. Nothing to do with the physical properties of that. But with that, I'll go ahead and switch over to the appearance library, Autodesk Appearance, because again we're trying to create a photorealistic image. At this point, I don't care about the strength or the weights of anything. I just want it to look good and look real. So I'm going to click on my tire. I'm going to go up in there and just make sure it's rubber black. Seems to be a pretty good one to use. I have had people find some other different black materials in here though that do turn out pretty well also. I'm going to just click off to deselect, and then I'll click on the wheel, and let's go in there, and it's on polished black. I'm just going to go back to a regular polished. Make it a little bit shinier that way. Okay, so I got some materials, and I'll probably play around with those a little bit more in a minute. But that kind of just helps set me up and hopefully explains what the differences are in that area. We're going to now go to the View tab, and a couple things we want to do here. We're going to switch our appearance from orthographic to perspective, right? Because that's the way we actually see the world. Orthographic is awesome for designing, keeps things lined up and easier to maybe reference things, but perspective is how we really see it. And then we're going to change our visual style to realistic. And when we do that, we're also able to turn on ray tracing. And ray tracing is actually a small sample of what we're going to be doing in a minute with Inventor Studio. But this lets us really see kind of how our materials are going to look in a rendered image. And actually that's not too bad. What I'm looking for in my black tire is that obviously it's nice and dark, like I would imagine a black tire to be, but I can still see a little bit of the details showing up. I can still see a little bit of those details in the tire showing up. It's not so black that it just looks like a solid color. It's also not so bright that it looks just gray. And then also on my rim, does it look like a shiny rim? Do you think it is too shiny, too mirror-like? And you could go in and play, if you think so, change these materials. This is a great time to do it. And maybe I'll go back to that polished black, see just how that looks. Click off. And you can see how it's going to affect that. And there's so many choices in there that it's something that play around with a little bit. Maybe it's not even going to be chrome. Maybe it's going to be aluminum. Go up to everything's alphabetical. We have aluminum, dark, flat, polished, cast. So let's try polished once. Okay. somewhat personal opinion here. To me, it just looks a little too flat. I want it to look a little more chromy, so I'm just going to go back to the last one I had. Maybe one more time. That was the black chrome. Yeah, I like that. That was just chrome polished, and we're going to give that a shot. So I've kind of switched a few view items. I've given myself a little preview, and this is a quick, easy place to change these materials to see kind of how it looks. And now we can go to Environments finally and Inventor Studio. And don't worry about that. I think only I will get that. Alright, so in Studio's running. You can see we got a new tab on our ribbon. And we are going to kind of live just in one little area here on the ribbon actually. This panel called Scene, because we're just doing a simple scene to create a picture. If we want to do like a virtual fly around and maybe an explosion of this part and all kinds of animations, we would be on this panel. But really just here for us, and then the render image in a minute. So the first thing we need to do is set up our studio lighting. So click on that tool. And I'm looking for a photo room, so I don't see here. We're going to go into the global, our photo booth. I just did some experimenting earlier, and I found that this one works pretty well, so I'm just going to right click on it, make it the active lighting style. You are welcome to try some other ones. If I right click and make this one active, doesn't seem like much is changing here at the moment, but on some of these you definitely get, some environments have way more lights, and therefore you get a very bright and overexposed image. But photo booth is going to get you really close, I think. And I do know even in photo booth, you can see the tire's getting a little too much light on top. Starting to go from that black to more of a grayed out black, and I'm just going to grab this exposure bar and slide it down to about a negative 0.4. And I'll just save that change. It's the only thing I gotta make in here. And then done. We're gonna go to render image. I'm just gonna set my size to 1024, 768. Works pretty well. Current view for the camera is just exactly what we see. And then our lighting style is photo booth, which is the one it remembers the one we set to active and that we modified. And checking in here, we're going to render by iteration, so it's going to process it 32 times and give us an image that looks pretty good. A lot of what I read says to go until satisfactory and stop it, because it could realistically take 15 minutes or so to get a really nice picture, but this is going to give us a good start. Iteration, make sure it's high, and we can click render, and let's see what happens. And you can see it's clearing up as it processes. It keeps going back over and over and fine-tuning the details. If it looks weird in spots, it's because what's happening is it's so shiny and so mirror-like that we're actually just getting some weird reflections here. So that might be a reason to play with the materials a little bit more, so it's not quite as shiny. I'm just going to go ahead and close this for the moment, because the other main piece of the puzzle, without watching me experiment between materials a bunch of times, is you need to take a look at your car picture. And you'll have the luxury of just pulling this up on your other screen, but if I'm doing the front tire, I need my front tire in Inventor to be orientated just like this, so I can put it into this picture later and make sure it looks correct. So okay, I got it, this little mental image. I'm turning it a little bit more, so F4, rotate like that. maybe that was just a little bit too far. There we go. And because it's on orthographic projection, even if you pan, it actually does slide it, as it slowly rotates it a little more for you. And then go ahead and click render again. And you don't need this to fill the screen when it's rendering, but you also just don't want to make sure it's just some tiny little wheel in the background, because we gotta make sure it's large enough so it's easy to do some photo editing on. And I think it's looking pretty good. The tire might be, I think the tire has pretty good detail. You know, it's nice and dark, yet you can still see a little bit of your treads, whether or not they show up in the final product, but you know, that's just kind of the judgment if you have about the right depth of black on your tire. And yeah, I'm going to say this is pretty good. So let's save it. Make sure it's a BMP file. I think you'll have to switch that right away. And I'm just putting it somewhere I can find it easy. You guys should be saving it to your G Drive folders in your folder so it's all organized. Click save. And yep. And that's it. That's a rendered image. It's going to take you a little bit longer because you should be playing around more with these materials to make sure get your appearance just right. You know, and a little attention to detail now is going to make your total photo editing look much better. The more realistic we can get these to turn out, the better the final product looks and more realistic it looks, which is just, I think, a pretty cool thing. The last thing I'll mention is, you saw my car photo. My front tire and rear tire are at different angles. So in this scenario, I just did this front tire rendering. I would then go back in Inventor, rotate the tire to be this angle, or wheel and tire, and then I would do one more rendering. So I need 2 renderings to complete my car photo project. Okay, so with that, hopefully that'll help you guys render your wheels and tires out. Good luck.